What drives someone to commit heinous crimes? Are they born evil or shaped by circumstances? Today, we take you inside the mind of a killer through the lens of forensic psychology and interrogation analysis. Watch as we break down real interrogation footage and unravel the psychological traits that set these criminals apart. Forensic psychology is the study of how psychology is applied to the legal system. In simpler terms, it's basically looking at criminal behavior through the lens of psychology. This field is huge, encompassing everything from criminal profiling to jury selection to insanity pleas. But today we're going to focus on the interrogation aspect. Before we get into our first killer, let's meet the professionals who make sense of all this. Forensic psychologists are trained to spot the subtle signs in a person's behavior that can mean the difference between catching a criminal and letting them slip through our fingers. They look at how people behave before, during, and after committing crimes, and try to come up with ways to prevent those crimes from happening in the first place. Now let's talk about some terms you should know. Psychopathy and sociopathy are often thrown around, but what do they really mean? Well, both terms refer to personality disorders that can make someone more likely to commit crimes. But psychopathy is generally seen as something you're born with, while sociopathy is thought to be more of a product of your environment. Dissociative identity disorder, or multiple personalities, is another term you may have heard. Basically, it's when someone has more than one distinct personality. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it is a real thing, and it's often brought up when talking about serial killers. Finally, there's behavioral profiling. This is when investigators look at the details of a crime to try and figure out who committed it and what their motivations were. It's basically like putting together a puzzle to catch a criminal. Behavioral profiling helps investigators understand the who, what, where, when, and how of a crime, which is crucial for catching the perpetrator. For example, if a crime scene shows signs of ritualistic behavior, investigators may suspect a highly anxious or obsessive individual. By understanding the psychology behind certain behaviors, investigators can narrow down the possibilities and create a profile of the most likely suspect. And once they have that profile, they can start to look for someone who matches it. In essence, behavioral profiling helps investigators think like a criminal, which may sound counterintuitive, but it's actually a vital tool in solving crimes. By understanding the motivations and thought processes of a criminal, investigators can better predict their behavior and ultimately bring them to justice. So whether it's looking for patterns in a crime scene or creating a composite sketch of a suspect, behavioral profiling is an essential part of any criminal investigation. Let's now move on to our first case. You probably know him as the charismatic yet terrifying serial killer, Ted Bundy. He was infamous not only for his horrific crimes, but also for his manipulative charm. Bundy was known to feign injury or even blindness to lure in unsuspecting victims. Underneath this deceptive exterior, however, lurked a master manipulator and cold-blooded killer. Let's take a closer look at one of his interviews. During this interview, you'll see Ted Bundy being interviewed by two detectives regarding the disappearance of a young woman named Marie Burr. Initially, Bundy denies having seen her, but then claims to have given her a ride. Throughout the conversation, Bundy remains polite and cooperative, even offering to take a polygraph test. However, there are several signs that suggest he may be hiding something. As the interview progresses, Bundy becomes increasingly evasive when questioned about specific details surrounding the alleged ride he gave Burkhart. He also displays an uncanny ability to shift the focus away from himself and onto the detectives, questioning their methods and even accusing them of entrapment. Despite these red flags, the detectives seem to buy Bundy's story and eventually let him go. But let's rewind and pay attention to some of Bundy's subtle behaviors and statements that raise suspicions. First, notice how Bundy keeps his hands carefully placed in his lap throughout the interview. While this may seem like a small detail, it's actually a classic sign of deception. Keeping your hands in your lap is a way of controlling your body language and preventing any unintentional movements that might betray one's emotions. This is a tactic commonly used by individuals who are trying to appear calm and collected while hiding their true feelings. Bundy was well aware of the importance of maintaining a composed demeanor during the interview, and his strategic hand placement is a testament to his calculated nature. Next, let's examine Bundy's use of language. At one point, he says, "I don't feel that I've done anything wrong." Notice how he emphasizes the word done. This subtle emphasis is a giveaway that he is feeling defensive and is trying to convince himself as much as the detectives. The use of the present perfect tense, have done, implies a connection between his past actions and the present moment, drawing attention to his potential involvement in Burkhart's disappearance. By emphasizing done, Bundy inadvertently reveals his true feelings of guilt. Finally, let's consider Bundy's body language. His lack of eye contact, coupled with his stiff posture and limited facial expressions, indicates a distinct lack of emotion when discussing the case. This lack of empathy is a telltale sign of psychopathy, a personality disorder characterized by a lack of remorse or shame. Bundy's inability to connect with the detectives on an emotional level suggests that he is incapable of genuine human connection, further solidifying his status as a cold-blooded killer. By breaking down Bundy's behavior in this interview, we gain insight into the chilling reality of his crimes and the lengths to which he would go to evade justice. His calculated control over his emotions, language, and body language revealed a man capable of unspeakable acts and willing to lie with ease to cover his tracks. Now let's turn our attention to the case of Chris Watts, a seemingly ordinary family man who in 2018 confessed to the horrifying murders of his wife and 2 daughters. What makes Watts' case particularly chilling is not just the brutality of the crime, but also the calculated manner in which he carried it out. In this clip, Watts is being interviewed by a detective just hours after he reported his wife Shanann's disappearance. Despite the gravity of the situation, Watts appears calm and collected, even cracking jokes at times. He provides a detailed account of the day his wife disappeared, claiming that he last saw her at 5:40 a.m. when he left for work. He also insists that he had no knowledge of her whereabouts and had not heard from her since. Throughout the interview, Watts is cordial with the detective, answering questions patiently and providing specific details. However, there are subtle cues that hint at his deceptive behavior. For instance, he casually strokes his chin while discussing his wife's schedule, a nervous habit he exhibits whenever he is lying. Additionally, his eyes dart around the room, betraying his discomfort with being confined in a small space. These signs of anxiety are inconsistent with the calm facade he is trying to project. As the interview continues, Watts mentions his daughters as collateral in his divorce proceedings, a detail that is both irrelevant and disturbing. He also describes his daughters in a detached manner, referring to them as the girls instead of using their names. This lack of emotional connection is a telltale sign of a psychopath who is incapable of genuine love or empathy towards others. Towards the end of the interview, Watts makes a shocking admission, stating that he believes his wife may have been taken by an illegal immigrant. He explains that Shannon had mentioned working with a cleaning service, and he suspects that one of the workers may have kidnapped her. However, this theory falls apart under scrutiny as there is no evidence of forced entry into the home, and Shannon's phone was found inside the house. The police were able to gather enough evidence to arrest Watts and charge him with 9 counts of first-degree murder. During the trial, it was revealed that Watts had been having an affair and planned to leave his wife for another woman. He confessed to smothering his wife and 2 daughters to death, burying them in a shallow grave on an oil site where he worked. The Watts case is a grim reminder that appearances can be deceiving and that even the most seemingly ordinary individuals are capable of unspeakable acts. Through the analysis of his body language and choice of words, we can see the subtle signs of deception and callousness that ultimately led to his downfall. Body language and deception play a significant role in the interrogation process as they provide valuable clues into the truthfulness of a suspect's statements. By paying close attention to a suspect's behavior, interrogators can identify signs of deception or nervousism, which can lead to a more successful outcome in extracting confessions or obtaining crucial information. One technique used by interrogators is the Reid Technique, which involves assessing a suspect's verbal and nonverbal behavior for signs of deception. On the other hand, the Peace model is another approach that focuses on building rapport with the suspect and allowing them to tell their story before asking direct questions. Both techniques have their strengths and weaknesses, and the best approach often depends on the specific circumstances of the case. For example, in the case of a murder investigation, an interrogator may start by asking open-ended questions to get the suspect to talk about their activities on the day of the crime without directly accusing them of any wrongdoing. If the suspect's story seems inconsistent or if they display signs of deception through their body language, the interrogator may then switch to more direct questioning techniques. This approach allows the interrogator to gradually build a case against the suspect while still giving them an opportunity to come clean and confess to their crime. Understanding the psychology behind body language and deception is crucial for anyone involved in the criminal justice system, from law enforcement officers to prosecutors to defense attorneys. By learning how to read a suspect's body language and detect signs of deception, interrogators can more effectively gather evidence, extract confessions, and ultimately bring criminals to justice. So what do you think? Do you believe forensic psychology can give us the answers we need in understanding the complexities of a criminal's mind? Or are there aspects of criminal behavior that will forever remain enigmatic? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more gripping forensic breakdowns and true crime content. Thanks for watching.